Happy Sabbath! Welcome to Sabbath School.
We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. You make us bold and we stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. We're off on this journey, there's no looking back. With Jesus to lead us, we're on the right track. Oh, 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 oh. Wide open spaces for wide open eyes. We're looking ahead for the next big surprise. Oh, 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 oh. We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. You make us whole and we stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. We're off on this journey, there's no looking back. With Jesus to lead us, we're on the right track. Oh, 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 oh. Wide open spaces for wide open eyes. We're looking ahead for the next big surprise. Oh, 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 oh. We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. We stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. Trusting in you. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. Trusting in you. Trusting in you. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you.
Good morning, everyone. Put your hands up high. Open, shut them. Open, shut them. Give a little clap. Open, shut them. Open, shut them. Fold them in your lap. You know, there's some very odd contests around the world. There's a worm charming contest. You have to raise worms to the surface. There's a tuna-rama. You throw pieces of frozen tuna. There's an extreme ironing contest and all sorts of others. But today I want to talk about one that you might have heard of and you may or may not want to participate in. You ever heard of a cow pie or a cow chip? Well, after the cow or the buffalo goes to the bathroom, they leave a big, round, flat bunch of poop. Then it dries out. As it dries out, the smell goes away. It's light, it's easily collected and used for many things. Settlers, the homesteaders, the indigenous people used to use the cow chips or the buffalo pies as fuel. They would burn them to warm their houses. They would burn them to cook things on top of them, like a stove. In other countries, they use them as well. In India, they make big, tall stacks of them to use. In Nepal, they put them on the walls of the house to dry. The settlers used to use them as mud to chink up the log cabin so that the air wouldn't get in. Lots of uses for them. And that might sound yucky to you, but they're really quite clean once they've dried out. Remember, they don't smell. They're not yucky. Well, in Beaver, Oklahoma, every year they have a big contest. This might be a funny contest to watch. You see, they collect cow pies, the cow poop that's dried. They put it in a big barrel, big wagon, and then contestants, people who want to play the game, come and choose their cow chip. By rule, they have to be over 6 inches wide. Now, veterans, people who have done this before, will choose one that's big and one that's lightweight but has some heft to it so they can actually throw it. They also know to keep their mouths closed after they throw, because you wouldn't want it in your mouth. So they will line up and take that cow patty and toss it as far as they can. Now, you might think this is a new game, but do you know that in the first Olympics, people threw cow patties? It stopped in 468 BC. That's before Jesus. In 1600, it became known again and is written about in countries such as Scotland, France, Austria, and they had cow patty throwing contest. Well, in Beaver, Oklahoma, that's what they do. A lot of states have it, but Beaver, Oklahoma is the official world championship cow chip throwing contest. And every year they have one. The one that was thrown the furthest was in 1991, and it was 248 feet. Now, average is about 140, and they have sections for girls and boys and men and women, so anybody can compete. Do you think it would be fun? To win, you have to beat that throw and throw very, very far. Most of them don't go that far. I think it might be fun to watch. Contests are fun, aren't they? Someone wins, someone loses. You know that Jesus says you don't have to have a contest to get into heaven. To come live with him forever, there's no contest. He said, I've invited you. You have the ticket already. Just say, I love you, Jesus, and you can come and join me. I think that will be a fun thing to do. Probably a lot more fun than watching a cow chip patty contest, because we'll get to spend time with Jesus. That will be the best day ever. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Happy Sabbath. This week's primary lesson memory verse is, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. Galatians 6:10. And remember that God helps you serve your family. After being away for many years, Father Jacob had returned to Canaan with his wives and 12 sons. Joseph was the second youngest and his father's favorite. Because of this, his older brothers hated him and decided to sell him to slave traders going to Egypt. In Egypt, Joseph had remained faithful to God even when bad things had happened to him. Eventually, God had helped him to become the governor. When a famine came on all the land, Jacob sent his 10 sons to Egypt for food. Joseph was in charge of the food. Joseph's brothers did not know who he was, but Joseph knew them, and finally he made himself known. He told them that he had forgiven them for selling him into slavery. He promised to take care of the entire family, and now the brothers were on their way back to Canaan with the good news. And what a grand trip it was. They had carts loaded with food. They had new clothes and money that Joseph had given them. They had many donkeys loaded with presents for their father. And they had Pharaoh's special invitation to come and live in Egypt. He had promised that their families would have food to eat during the rest of the famine. When they got home, their father Jacob could not believe the news. His favorite son Joseph was alive. Joseph was not dead as he had believed all those years. Are you sure? He asked his sons over and over. Are you sure Joseph is alive? And you say he is the governor of Egypt? Tell me again. Tell me again. Finally, Jacob and his family set out for Egypt. Jacob, his children, his in-laws, and his grandchildren, everybody went. Some rode comfortably in the carts that Pharaoh had provided for them. Jacob's sons rode beside the carts on Pharaoh's plump donkeys. It was a long journey, but they had plenty of food for the trip. Jacob's heart sang the whole way. He was really, truly going to see his son Joseph once again. In Joseph's home, his servants brought him the good news. "Your family is almost here," they announced. "Hurry, get my chariot ready," Joseph ordered. He drove as fast as his horses could gallop to meet his father. When he got to where he was, Joseph ran to Jacob and hugged him. Together, they cried for joy. Soon after, Joseph took 5 of his brothers to the palace to meet Pharaoh. "What is your occupation?" Pharaoh asked them. "We are shepherds," the brothers replied. "Your brothers may live in Goshen," Pharaoh told Joseph. "It is the best of my land, and I will also hire your brothers to take care of my cattle, if they wish." Joseph took his father to meet Pharaoh too. And Jacob, the great man of God, blessed Pharaoh, the mighty king of Egypt. After that, Jacob lived with his family in Egypt for 17 years, and then he died. He was 147 years old. Joseph's brothers began to worry. Now that their father was dead, what would Joseph do? Would he finally get even with them for the terrible thing they had done? They decided to send Joseph a message. "Before our father died, he said he wanted you to forgive us for the evil thing we did to you." "You meant to harm me," Joseph replied, "but God meant it for good. He made it possible for me to help all of you." "How has God made it possible for you to serve your family? You may never be an officer in your country's government. You may never have to save your family from starvation, but you are part of a family. What can you do now to help and show love to the people you live with? What can you do to serve your church family also?"
God of heaven and earth, you are amazing. You hold me up with your hand, you give me faith, and I will put my hope in you alone, in you alone. God of heaven and earth, you are amazing. You hold me up with your hand, you give me faith, and